Hi, welcome to my unboxing video of the new AnyCubic Kobra that I've currently been gifted. I will be doing an unboxing today, and then about a week later I'll go through anything that I found, tips and tricks, a week on end after using the machine for a while. You can see it's well packaged. Let's get this open. We'll get the first sheet of foam off and see what we've got inside. So you can see there's a bag with the instructions in it and the main framework of the machine ready assembled. Let's see what we got in this bag of bits first. It looks like the first thing we've got is a power cord. Make sure it's the right one for your country when you're getting it. We're here in the UK, so we've got a 3-pin plug. We've got a clip for the cables, a tube of grease for lubing the Z-rod. We've also got an SD card. We've got some tools. A scraper. Some nozzle cleaning needles. Some Allen keys. A spanner. Another spanner. A pair of cutters. And a little screwdriver. And to see what we've got in our second bags, we've got some filament. We've got a printer cable for connecting to your PC. We've got a little card reader, quite a good quality looking one. We've got some nuts and bolts for the assembly. We've got a spare nozzle and tube and the instructions. Okay, so as always, let's have a quick look over the instructions before we start to build this thing. Let's have a look at the parts that we've got here. We've got the screen. Looks like a nicely well made touch screen. And then we've got the main assembly with the fully assembled. You can see it's got the adjuster rod for the belts, the Z rod, the servo motor for it, the hot end, a nice auto level capacitive sensor, direct drive, so it's very nice. Put this to one side. We've got a holder for the filament spool. Okay, let's get this off and see what's in the next level. We've got the base of the machine. Looks like a magnetic base for a PEI sheet. Again, all pretty much assembled. Got the belt adjuster. Nice rubber feet, nice and sturdy. Got the power supply, the stepper motor on the back. Power supply underneath. All very nice and neat. And don't throw this bit away too soon because your PEI bed is underneath. A nice flexible bed should help to get the prints off easy. It's magnetically attached to the base. Let's have a look at the instructions for the bit where we're going to put the two parts of the machine together and the spool holder on. Okay, so we've got some pieces of foam to take out of the assembled base. I'm going to take the PEI sheet off as well, just to stop me getting it dirty or damaged. Let's have a little look at this. There's nothing really to check on the underneath. Make sure the bed's nice and tight. We can adjust the wheels underneath if necessary later. We'll feed this cable out from under the bed and move it to the back, out the way. You can see the adjustment nuts underneath. Make sure it's all smooth. Make sure they're tight enough. You can see them on the other side, and you can see another cable coming out here. Just making sure everything's tight. Okay, so we're going to take this piece of foam out of here, and then we're going to wind our Z rod all the way up, at least halfway. We're making sure it's all nice and smooth, and we don't want the hot end to hit the bed at all whilst we're doing our assembly. We're going to position this now in place to see where it fits. There's 4 holes that it needs to align up with. Okay, so we've got our nuts and bolts package emptied out here, and we've got our Allen keys. We're going to identify which Allen key and which 4 bolts that we need to secure the base to the main frame. It's the 4 longest bolts. We're going to pop them in loosely, slight wiggle just to make sure they're going in nicely. Make sure they're going nice and easy, no cross threading. We're going to put each one in loosely to start with, just to start the thread off, to make sure they're all aligned and square. Got the bottom 2 to put in now. So once they're all in loose and hand tight, we're going to nip them down, not tight, just nip them. We don't want to have one tighter than the other. We want to put it all down nice and square. So we'll give these a little nip, and then we'll move on to the top 2. And get these ones just nipped up as well. And the last one, make sure you've got your washers in. Once we've got them all nipped up slightly, we can then turn the Allen key around and then proceed to tighten them a little bit more progressively, top and bottom, until they're tightened up nice and even. Okay, now we're going to mount our display. We need to make sure we've got the right cap head Allen keys and the right Allen key for the job before we get started. We've got holes in the bracket and threads in the base unit. So we'll line these up nice and gentle, make sure they're going nice and easy, no cross threading. There's one in the top. We'll just nip it up loosely. And there's a second one in the front. if we do these up loose to start, we can then position the unit. There's 2 in the front, so that's 3 in total. 1 in the top, 2 in the front. We'll get these all in and just nip them up as before. Looks like I've picked up the wrong one. So now we've got the right nuts and bolts. We can get the front 2 in. Make sure the display unit is sitting where we want it, and then we can tighten these up. Okay, so next stage we're gonna get the Allen key bolts ready to put the filament spool holder on top of the gantry. Make sure we get it the right way around. As before, there's 2 holes in the bracket and threads in the top of the gantry. Get them both in. They're a little bit awkward. Get them both in loosely, making sure not to cross thread them. And then once we've got them both in, we can check the position of the holder, make sure it's square where we want it, and tighten them up. Okay, so we're getting this done up nice and tight. The spool holder's got to be on the machine because this is direct drive, it needs to be directly above it. And have a quick look at the manual before we go on to the next step. Okay, so we've got a single plug that comes along to the direct drive hot end assembly. Nice and neat. Spread the 2 clips open. Make sure the plug goes in the right way. There's a little tab on it. Closes down nicely. Then we've got the stepper motor plug that drives the hot end axis. The next one is for the stepper motor that drives the Z rod. And finally, we've got a plug that goes in to our display. Now we've got a clip that is used to secure the cable that goes to the hot end onto the bush bracket for the Z rod. It's a little tricky getting all the bits together and getting it squashed down, so don't worry about the cable position to start with. Just make sure it's through, because we can pull that through in a minute. So make sure you get this in without cross threading. Should be loose to start with, and then get it nipped up. You want to get the cable bracket in position so it's at right angles to the hot end. It's a little tricky because the Z rod's in the way. So once you get it tight, straighten up the bracket and then continue to tighten it up. There's a bit of resistance because there's quite a lot of spring on this. It could have really done with a slightly longer bolt, but it's not too bad. Once you've got it where you want it, you can now think about pulling the cable through. So give it a slight squeeze, because it's a flat cable, but it needs to be slightly curved to get through the hole. Put it through, as you can see, until you're happy with the length. You don't want it pulling on the smaller connector, but you want enough length so that the hot end can move freely all the way up and all the way down. So about here, I was quite happy with. Then you need to just turn it around and make sure that the hot end can move all the way from left to right without the cable getting pulled or snagging. Okay, so we're going to check the wheels for tightness. They seem okay on these particular wheels, just about move them. But on these ones, you can see just by moving it, there's a lot of wobble and they're way too loose. So we're going to move on to adjusting those, because these will affect our print. Okay, so onto the adjustment. We've got the spanner that's provided. As you can see, there's a nut behind one of the wheels. With a small bit of adjustment, you can tighten them up and then you can check them. They want to be tight, so you can just about move them with a fair bit of effort, and you don't want any wobble. So we have a belt adjuster here at the front to move our bed forwards and backwards on our y-axis. We're going to turn this knob until, it's hard to explain, but you want a slight twang on the belt. Not too tight, but definitely not too loose, because this can cause skipping. So we're going to do the same again, but looking at our x-axis this time. It's a bit harder to feel the belt, but you can feel it near the clips. We're going to adjust it again, so it's got a slight twang. This was a little loose. And one of the most important things, you must have the voltage set right on the switch, and you must make sure you've got your right connector and your right plug for your country, or you will damage the unit. And here it is turning on. So we're going to check our proximity sensor by putting a spanner in front of it and watching the light come on. And now a quick look over the instructions so we can see what we're going to do on our next few stages. So we're all powered up and we know our level sensor's working. So we're going to get the PEI bed on so that the sensor has somewhere to check against, because it uses the metal to pick up on. We're going to go into our controls and we're going to go to leveling and auto level. It's going to ask to heat up first. It's very important that it heats up first, because the bed can expand when it gets hot, and if you've done it cold, could give you false readings when you're printing. So it's going to find itself now down to its home position, and at this time it's also going to be heating up the bed. It's quite a slow process, so I've just doubled the speed up on the video. So it's getting itself into its home position. As you can see, the LED's flashed a couple of times on there, and now we're waiting for it to preheat the bed before it begins its 16-point leveling cycle. Once it gets up to temperature, the cycle should automatically begin the probing. Okay, so the auto level has started. I've sped the video up to 2 times again because it's quite a slow process. So what the unit's now doing is it's going across 16 different points across the bed, and it's measuring at what position it makes contact, or should I say the proximity sensor, which can detect from a gap, detects the metal on the bed. It's then going to store these readings. So it's got a map of the bed, so it knows where it's high, where it's low. It's so that when it's then got its G code, it can use that information to slightly adjust the Z-axis as it prints to compensate for any inaccuracies in the bed due to its level, or it could have a dip in it, or it could be warped, etc. You shouldn't have to do this every print. Every few I would probably recommend. And it's strange to watch when it's printing because you actually see the Z-axis stepper motor moving forward and back as it prints. So it gives an indication that your auto level is actually working when you watch it printing a level. And here it is. It's finished taking its readings, and now it's going to go and home itself, ready to print. I've also kindly been gifted some filament to go with the printer. So we're going to unwrap this. It's vacuum sealed with its desiccant because PLA is notorious for absorbing moisture, and this ruins our prints. So we're going to get this unwrapped. We're going to get the end and pull it out from its holder. Snapped off there a little bit. It's quite brittle when it's been bent in that position for a while. We're now going to go to filament, and we're going to go filament in, and it's now going to want to preheat the hot end. This is going to take a little bit of time, so I'll just speed the video up quickly. It needs to get it up to temperature 230. It's chosen by default. This is just so that the hot end is ready to melt the filament as soon as you put it in. Now the filament is inserted straight into the direct drive hot end. There's a little spring clip you can pull backwards just to help, and then it will get the filament part into the first cog. Once you feel it in there, it will grab hold of it, pull it through, and you should see some filament coming out of the end of the nozzle. Now I should have done this first really, but in hindsight I'm going to lift the Z-axis up. You can see there's a menu here for doing it. You can move it by 0.1 of a mil, 1 mil, or 10 mil. I'm going to go for 10 mil at a time. Lift it up, and you'll be able to see there's a blob under there on the bed. So really I should have lifted this up really before loading it. It hasn't caused much of a problem, and I can just pick that off the bed, and then we can have a go at extruding a little bit more filament if we want to. So I'm just going to click on filament in again, and we should be able to see it now much easier coming through onto the bed. Okay, so there's no files on the printer, but we'll have a go at doing a print. So I'm going to take the pretty good quality USB reader electricity card out of the packet. 8 GB, not bad. We're going to pop it in, and then we're going to stick it in the printer to see what's on there. Okay, so we're going to pop the card into the machine, wait for it to load up, and we'll look at the print menu, and yes, we've got an owl. So we're going to get ready to have a go at printing this owl straight out the box. Okay, so I've asked it to print. It's going through its routine. It's going to be waiting for all the temperatures to get up before it starts to print. It's got a nice proximity sensor that detects where the bed is, and it's using this right now to home itself. You can see the red light comes on top when it detects the bed, and off it goes. Now, I didn't expect this to work properly because I haven't dialed in the Z offset at all. It's the first time I've used the machine, and I had no idea how close it was going to be. And as you can see, it's miles out. It's way too far from the bed, and it's not adhering. So we're going to have a look at that in a minute, see where the settings are, and get that Z offset dialed down so our print will stick nicely to the bed as we'd expect it to. Okay, so I've stopped the print. We're going to get this mess off the bed and have a look at this Z offset. The Z offset's found in the settings menu, and I've just quickly dialed it down to 0.3. And just showing you again where that is under the settings menu. Next, I'm going to set the speed down to 40%. This is also under the settings menu. This will give me some time to check the Z offset while the brim is printing whilst the print starts. So we've settled with it dialed in at minus 0.5, and the print has started quite well. It's laying down the first couple of layers quite well, so we're going to leave this now and come back in a minute and see how it's printing. A quick check halfway in, and it appears to be printing very nicely, very clean. And here we have it, our finished print on our nice PI bed that comes as standard. Just pop this off, a quick flex, and yep, it's straight off, printed on the machine with stock settings. Just a slight bit of Z offset, as you saw. Lovely clean print, and very impressed for a straight out the box print.